The fire that started. All the stars above Colony Farm 14 were quiet. Children played near the mining fields. Old machines hummed softly as workers returned from a long shift. Everyone thought it was just another peaceful day on the edge of human space. Then, without warning, the sky turned red. Black shadows appeared. Huge alien warships, shaped like knives, broke through the clouds. The first shot hit the power station. Fire exploded. Screams followed. Buildings fell apart like paper. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. Mira, a young technician, held her little brother's hand tightly. They ducked behind a metal wall as the ground shook. Explosions lit the sky above them. The smell of burning metal filled the air. "Stay with me," Mira shouted over the noise. The alien soldiers, Zelari, landed in the center of the colony. Their tall insect-like bodies moved fast, their weapons glowing blue. They didn't ask questions. They didn't take prisoners. They just destroyed everything. A human patrol squad tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered. One by one, they fell. The Zelari moved with cold precision. They had no mercy, no soul. Inside the main control room, a distress signal was sent. It went through deep space, bouncing off satellites until it reached Earth's Defense Command. Thousands of light years away, inside a dark war room on Earth, Captain Raynor watched the footage. The screen showed chaos, children screaming, people crushed under rubble, and the Zelari burning everything in their path. A silence fell over the room. Raynor stood up slowly. His eyes were sharp, his face hard like stone. "They just attacked a civilian colony," one officer whispered. Raynor's voice was cold. "They didn't just attack, they unleashed hell." Someone else said, "What should we do, sir?" Raynor didn't blink. "We've waited too long, hoping for peace. The Zelari just gave us a reason, a real reason." He leaned forward and spoke clearly for the whole command to hear. "Prepare the fleet. Tell them it's time to get really nasty." On the other side of the galaxy, Zelari High Command laughed. "These humans are soft," said General Verk, leader of the Zelari army. "They speak of peace and diplomacy, but when war comes, they cry." His advisors nodded, but they didn't see what was coming. They didn't know what humans were like when they stopped being polite. Back on Earth, ships began to move. Soldiers geared up. Elite units received one message: "This is not a mission. It's payback." In hidden bases, strange weapons were pulled out, ones Earth had never shown before. Silent black ships launched into space. Their mission was clear: no mercy, no survivors. One soldier, Kai Morgan, looked at his orders. He smiled darkly. "They killed our people, now we kill theirs." Meanwhile, Mira and her brother were pulled from the rubble by rescue bots. They were among the few who survived. The colony was gone, burned to ash. As Mira sat in the medbay, she held her brother close. "Why did they do this?" he asked. Mira looked at the stars through the window. Her voice was soft but filled with anger. "Because they thought we'd never fight back." The message from Earth reached every human ship across space. The Zelari started it, now we end it. All across the galaxy, people felt the shift. This was not just another war. It was something worse. It was something human. And it had just begun. 3 weeks passed since the Colony 514 massacre. The galaxy stayed quiet on the surface, but deep in the shadows something was moving. The Zelari thought they had won. They thought humans would mourn and retreat. But they were wrong. One by one, small Zelari outposts started going silent. At first, High Command ignored it. "Just technical problems," they said. Then a patrol ship went to check one outpost on the frozen moon of Oro 7. What they found made the commander drop to his knees. The entire base was destroyed. No alarms, no signals. Every Zelari soldier had been killed, their weapons untouched, their bodies arranged in strange patterns. At the center of the control room was a message burned into the wall. "You started this. Now we don't stop." The message was written. In Zelari blood, Zelari High Command ordered silence. "Don't let the public know. If they think humans are winning, we lose control," said General Verk. But word spread anyway. More bases went dark. On a jungle planet named Targus, an entire elite squad was found buried, heads above the ground, bodies eaten by native creatures. The only survivor was missing his tongue and hands. On his chest, burned into his skin, were the human words, "We learn fast." Back on Earth in a hidden underground war lab, human scientists reviewed the data. "What is this?" one asked, looking at Zalari weapon plans. Captain Rayner stood beside them, arms crossed. "It's stolen intel. Our men are behind enemy lines. They're not just fighting, they're studying," one scientist smiled. "We're turning their own tech against them." Rayner nodded. "Let the galaxy see. We're not just fighting back, we're improving." In the deep void of space aboard a Black Ops ship named the Vengeance, a human strike team gathered around a hologram of their next target. Their leader, Lieutenant Asha Blake, spoke clearly. "The Zalari want to erase us, but they don't understand. We're not here for peace anymore," she pointed to a spot on the map. "This is their fuel station. We don't just destroy it. We leave a message." One soldier raised his hand. "What kind of message?" Asha grinned. "The kind they can read in their nightmares." The attack was silent and fast. No loud explosions, no energy beams, just quiet knives, EMP bursts, and perfect timing. When the smoke cleared, the station floated dead in space. Zero power, zero survivors. The only thing left? A single Zalari officer floating in space, tied to the station's hull. His helmet was cracked, his mouth open in terror, and carved into his armor was a word in human letters. Next, in Zalari space, fear began to grow. Civilians whispered stories of shadow men and silent humans that appeared without warning, killed without mercy, then vanished like ghosts. Soldiers refused night patrols. Even commanders began locking their doors. General Verk watched the reports with shaking hands. "These aren't military tactics," he said. "They're something else." Commander Syra, his second-in-command, replied quietly, "It's not war anymore. It's personal to them now." Verk slammed the table. "Send more troops." Syra didn't move. "We already did." Back on Earth, Captain Rayner watched the enemy squirm. He received a direct message from Syra, offering a meeting, asking for peace talks. Rayner didn't reply. He simply sent back one video. The original footage of Colony 514, the flames, the screams, the Zalari smiling, along with one line of text. "We remember everything." In the deep dark of space, as more Zalari stations vanished and more messages in blood appeared, the galaxy began to understand. This war was no longer about land or power. The humans had been quiet for too long. Now, they were awake. And they were angry. Commander Syra sat alone in the dark. The room was silent except for the faint hum of her warship's engines. She stared at the screen in front of her, replaying the same video for the 5th time. It showed a Zalari scout team, 10 trained warriors, moving through a ruined human station on Outpost Theta 9. At first, the place looked empty, then the screaming started. One by one, the warriors fell. Their helmets were crushed, their weapons turned useless. Something moved in the shadows. Fast, silent, deadly, and at the end of the video, a single figure appeared. A human soldier. No armor, no fear. Just blood on his face and fire in his eyes. He stared directly into the Zalari camera and said only 2 words. "You taught us." Syra leaned back in her chair. Her claws tightened. For the first time in her life, she felt something new. Fear. The Zalari believed humans were weak, soft, emotional. They never imagined this level of brutality, not from Earth, not from a race that once begged for peace. But something had changed. The humans weren't just fighting. They were becoming something else, something the galaxy had never seen before. Reports flooded in from across the stars. A group of human prisoners escaped a high-security facility using melted pipes and sharpened metal scraps. They killed over 30 guards in complete silence. On the outer moons of Syndrax, a human squad disguised themselves as workers, infiltrated a weapons factory, and burned it from the inside. On the wall, they left only one message: "We adapt." The council chamber of the Zalari Empire, voices shouted over each other. "They are savages," one cried. "No, they are hunters now," another yelled. "They are doing to us what we did to them." Syrah rose to her feet. Her voice cut through. "The noise, we didn't start a war," she said. "We created monsters." The room went quiet. Back in human space, Captain Rayner stood in front of his soldiers. "You've all seen what they did at V-14, he said. "They thought we'd break. They thought we'd cry. But now they know. Humans don't break." Paused. "They evolve." Rayner looked at his soldiers, men and women who had lost friends, families, homes. He said only one word: "Unleash." Lieutenant Asha Blake led her new unit deep into enemy lines. She no longer wore standard armor. She wore black lightweight gear made for speed, silence, and terror. Her unit was called the Howlers. Their job: vanish into Zalari territory, destroy key structures, and leave fear behind. No backup. No mercy. They weren't soldiers anymore, they were predators. Asha's latest mission: a Zalari data center on the desert planet of Kazor. They entered during a sandstorm, crawling under sensors and through vents. One by one, guards disappeared, into the dark. No alarms rang. By morning, the center was a pile of ash. The only thing left was a data drive in the control room. Inside it was a single file: human children from Colony F-14 laughing and playing, right before the attack. And a voice recording: "You turned them to ash, so now we burn your future." Commander Syrah finally visited one of the ruined sites herself. She walked through her own troops' blood. Her claws shook as she saw how precise the humans were. No explosions, no wasted bullets. Just cold, planned killing. She found a wall with human writing scratched into it. "You built the fire. We became it." She turned to her officers. "They're not fighting for land or victory," she said. "They're fighting with memory, with pain." One officer asked, "What do we do?" Syrah looked to the stars. "We survive, if we can." But deep in the blackness of space, human ships kept moving. No drums, no glory, just a storm of silence. The humans weren't angry anymore. They were focused. And when humans get focused, they become unstoppable. End of Part 3. Would you like me to write? Part 4. Death in the Silence. Longer and even more unique. Next, you said, start with Part 4. More unique, ChatGPT said, absolutely. Below is a more unique and extended version of Part 4. Death in the Silence. Written in third-person style with simple basic English but designed with deeper intensity, vivid scenes and suspense. Word count is longer, around 1,000 plus words for stronger impact. Part 4. Death in the Silence. 1,000 words. Unique, simple English. Third person. The Zalari prison transport, Grathan 17, was built like a fortress. It had steel walls as thick as bunkers, autoguns at every hallway, and over 100 guards. No creature had ever escaped it. Inside, in cold cells, were 63 captured humans, soldiers, civilians, scientists. They were chained, starved, and watched every hour. Commander Vexar, a proud Zalari warden, smiled as he walked past the cells. "Humans," he spat. "Loud when they fight, quiet when they're broken." But that night, something changed. The ship fell silent. At first, the crew thought it was a power glitch. Lights flickered. Doors refused to open. Internal cameras showed static. Then the screaming began. One guard ran down a hallway, his claws soaked in blood. "Something's in the vents," he cried. Then a steel panel above him burst open. A figure dropped down, fast, silent, deadly. The last thing the guard saw was a pair of human eyes, calm, focused. Then darkness. Hours later, a rescue team from a nearby Zalari cruiser responded to the silent ship. They docked carefully. No response came from Grathan 17. The ship floated like a ghost. When they entered, they found death. Every guard was dead. weapons still in their holsters. No alarms had been triggered. The prisoners? Gone. The halls were painted with blood. Some doors had strange marks, cuts shaped like letters. One Zalari officer leaned close to read a wall message written in red. "You chained the wrong species." Back on Earth, Captain Rayner stood with his commanders as the footage was analyzed. They escaped using broken pipe pieces, belt wires, and melted floor panels, a tech officer explained. Rayner nodded slowly. No guns, no help, just human willpower. Another officer added, "We also found, this." She played a final video. In the center of the Zalari ship's command room, 3 humans stood over the ship's main control system. They looked straight into the ship's main camera. The leader said just one sentence, "You taught us pain. Now we teach you silence." Then the screen went black. Word spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, alien commanders locked their prisons tighter. But fear seeped into every wall. The Zalari had once been proud, loud, confident. Now, they whispered. On the planet Vrotha, Zalari families gathered in public squares. Holoscreens showed images of wanted humans. "If you see these faces," a voice said, "report them immediately." A small Zalari child asked her mother, "Why are the humans so angry?" The mother stayed silent for a moment, then replied, "Because they remember what we did." Meanwhile, deep in the outer territories, Lieutenant Asha Blake and her team, the Howlers, launched their next mission. They infiltrated an old communications relay near the border. This time, they didn't just destroy it, they hijacked it. For exactly 7 minutes, a signal went out across the Zalari Empire. Every screen, military, civilian, private, lit up with a single recording, the ruins of Colony 14, human screams, children crying, and finally the message, "We're not coming to talk. We're coming to collect." Commander Syrah watched in horror from her personal quarters. The screen turned off, but the words still echoed in her mind. She turned to her aides. "Shut down our outer stations. Bring all civilians into protected zones." One aide protested, "But Commander, that makes us look weak." She looked him in the eye and said coldly, "We are weak. We just didn't know it until now." In the next cycle, 5 more Zalari outposts went dark. Each, one hit by different human squads, different styles. Same results, total silence, no survivors. The Zalari tried to track the patterns. But the problem was, there were no patterns. Humans had become chaos in motion. One scientist, Dr. Nell, tried to explain the shift. "This isn't just war," he said to the Zalari Council. "This is psychological collapse. They're breaking our species' mind, not just our army." He played a video of one human soldier caught on a helmet cam before it went black. The human whispered, "Silence is where we work best." On Earth, humans didn't celebrate. They didn't throw parades, they just kept moving forward. For every colony lost, they marked a name. For every child buried, they trained 10 soldiers. The war wasn't about politics anymore. It was about balance. And the humans had decided it was time to correct the universe. Some Zalari began to flee their own empire, seeking refuge on other alien worlds. Others turned against their leaders, asking, "Why did we attack Earth?" But there was no answer. Only regret. And fear of what came next. On the edge of the Andromar Nebula, a human beacon was activated. It sent a signal, short, cold, final. "This is your last warning. You can't silence what you started." The Zalari didn't reply. They couldn't, because by the time they received the message, death had already arrived. In the silence, the sky above the Zalari homeworld had never known fear. Protected by shield grids, surrounded by war fleets, and defended by proud armies, the capital planet of Zelthar had stood untouched for over 700 years. Until now. One cold night, without any warning, the stars began to fall. Thousands of black dots appeared in the sky, falling fast, silent, and without any radio signal. The Zalari thought it was a meteor shower at first, but then the dots opened their wings. Drop pods. Human drop pods. General Verk stared up from his fortress balcony as the pods screamed through the clouds, burning like fire. Sirens blared. Defense cannons powered up. Fighters launched into the air, but it was too late. Humans were already on the ground, and they hadn't come to fight an army. They came to send a message. In the city of Savan, human soldiers moved through the streets like shadows. They didn't shoot civilians. They didn't take prisoners. They freed the enslaved. For decades, the Zalari had captured and used alien slaves to build their empire, digging their mines, powering their ships, cleaning their cities. The humans broke open the slave cages, one by one. Go, one soldier told a frightened alien child. You're free now. The child looked up at the human, tall, armored, face covered in dust, and whispered, Are you angels? The human said nothing. He just handed the child a warm blanket and moved on. Back at command, General Verk shouted at his staff, How did they get through our shields? No one answered, because deep in the system's defense core, human saboteurs had already slipped in earlier that week. They didn't blast the shields, they simply turned them off. One code, one signal, click, and the sky was no longer safe. In the food district of Zelthar, massive storage silos burned. Human engineers placed charges on every tower that held grain, medicine, and energy reserves. They didn't want to conquer. They wanted to starve the empire. A voice rang out on hijacked speakers all across the city. You wanted us weak. Now you'll feel hunger too. People screamed. Ships tried to escape the atmosphere. But the humans had blocked the skies. Lieutenant Asha Blake and her Howler team stood on top of a broken spire overlooking the chaos. Below them, fires lit the night like a second sun, one Howler whispered. We should leave. We made our point. Asha's eyes glowed behind her helmet. No, she said. Now we make them listen. She activated a new signal, one that broadcast Earth's anthem across all enemy frequencies. A slow, powerful human song played. It echoed through streets, ships, halls, and even the palace. A song of sorrow, a song of strength. The Zalari had no translator for it, but they felt the meaning. It said, This is your punishment. Commander Syrah watched it unfold from her command ship in orbit. She had begged for peace weeks ago. Earth never replied. Now, she knew why. Humans didn't ignore her. They had been preparing. In the refugee camps outside the capital, a Zalari mother held her children close. She looked to the sky, now red and filled with smoke, and whispered, Why are they doing this? An older Zalari, a retired war officer, sat beside her. They don't want our world, he said. They want us to feel what they felt. That night, one last message played on every screen across the Zalari Empire. A video of Earth, green fields, blue oceans, peaceful cities, followed by the ruins of Colony Vi-14. Then Captain Rayner appeared. He looked calm, cold, and unforgiving. He said, You burned our homes. We burned your sky. This isn't revenge, this is balance. The screen went black. No flag, no threat, no demands, just silence and flames. In the ruins of Zelthar, the fires burned for days. But the humans were already gone. They came like a storm. They struck with precision. They left nothing to capture, just fear and memory. The Zalari now knew this was not about war. This was what it felt like to challenge Earth. The capital world of Zelthar still smoked. Ash floated in the air. Buildings lay in ruins. Fires glowed under the night sky, and the once golden palace was just twisted metal and silence. No human forces remained, but their message stayed. It lingered in every street, every cracked screen, and every terrified breath. Commander Syrah walked through the ruins of the royal gardens, once filled with light and music, now filled with burned leaves and broken statues. A recording device lay near a shattered fountain. She pressed it. The voice of a human woman spoke calmly. "You made us cry, so now we make you quiet." Syria dropped the device and looked up at the black sky. Her own soldiers refused to leave their bunkers. Civilians screamed at shadows. Some even jumped at their own reflections, thinking it was a human coming for them. That's when she realized something terrifying. They weren't afraid of human weapons. They were afraid of humans. Far from the war zones in the Zalari Academy on Kyrex Prime, young cadets trained in silence. They no longer shouted orders or sang battle chants. Instead, they studied human psychology. One teacher spoke softly to the class. "We thought they feared death, but we were wrong. Humans fear losing each other. That's why they fight so hard." A cadet asked, "How do we stop them?" The teacher looked tired. "We don't. We pray they stop themselves." On the human side, silence filled the war rooms. No cheers. No celebration. Captain Rayner stood at the center of a command deck aboard the dreadnought Horizon's Fist. He reviewed new reports. 10 more enemy stations abandoned. Entire colonies evacuated before a single shot was fired. The humans hadn't attacked them. They had terrified them into leaving. An officer approached. "Sir, the Zalari want peace. They've sent another message. They're begging now." Rayner didn't look up. Begging is not understanding. The officer hesitated. "Should we reply?" Rayner shook his head. "They haven't learned yet." Back on Zelthar, General, Ferk sat alone in a hidden bunker under the old palace. He hadn't spoken to his men in 3 days. He had once believed humans were weak, too emotional, too soft. But now, he saw the truth. Humans didn't fight because they had to. They fought because they chose to. And when they did, they became something terrifying, something unstoppable. Across the stars, whispers spread. Entire species that once supported the Zalari turned away. No one wanted to be Earth's enemy. Not anymore. One alien diplomat from the Vrexian Union said on a live broadcast, "We mocked them. Now we envy them. We called them soft. Now we call them strong." Another added, "They forgive, yes, but never forget." Inside a Zalari military prison, something strange happened. The guards abandoned their posts. Not from orders, from fear. In the middle of the night, an empty human cell door opened by itself. No one entered, no one left. But in the morning, words were scratched into the floor. "You lock us up. We lock you down." In a deep cave system on the jungle world of Trexus, a group of high-ranking Zalari hid underground. They thought they were safe. No one knew the location. No one could break in. But then, they heard music, soft, human. A song with no lyrics, just piano and wind. It echoed through the cave walls. One by one, they turned pale. "How?" One whispered. No one answered. Then the lights went out, and someone said in a calm voice, "Now, you know what fear feels like." The next day, the galaxy received one final message from Earth. No video, no images, just a single sentence. "Let this memory live forever." And that was it. No threat, no promise, just silence. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. People rebuilt. Children went back to school. Families lit candles for the ones they lost. No victory parade, no speeches, just quiet, just healing. But every person knew deep in their bones that if the Zalari ever returned, they would rise again, faster, stronger, and even more dangerous. On a small moon far from the war, an old Zalari scholar stood on a mountain and looked at Earth through a telescope. He had never feared humans before. Now he wrote a single line in his book. "Do not awaken the human storm. It waits quietly but never forgets the sky it burned." The stars above Earth were quiet again. Peace had returned, but it was not the same as before. There were no parades, no fireworks, no victory, Songs, just silence, and the weight of memory. In a green field outside New Berlin, a boy placed flowers near a white stone marked Colony Fate 14 Memorial. They were the first to burn, but never forgotten. The boy's father, a soldier who had returned home with scars on his arms and deeper ones in his heart, stood beside him. "Did we win, Dad?" the boy asked. The man was quiet for a long moment, then said softly, "We stopped the bleeding. That's not victory, but it's something." Far across the stars, the Zalari Empire no longer existed. What was once a mighty civilization, filled with fire and pride, was now only broken cities, ghost stations, and frightened whispers. The last government ships turned off their beacons, the last generals disappeared, and the last emperor, if he had even survived, was never seen again. On a broadcast heard across 100 systems, a voice spoke. "Here's the truth. You provoked Earth. You mocked their peace. You struck first, thinking they would bend, cry, or run. Instead, they stood. Then they changed. And then they made you run." The voice belonged to a Zalari historian, once loyal to the Empire. Now, he lived on a refugee ship orbiting a barren moon. He ended the transmission with trembling words. "We thought Earth was soft. We learned too late. They are quiet. Until they're not." In a hidden chamber deep under Earth's surface, Captain Raynor stood before a council. A galaxy-wide truce had been called. Even alien races that once stood with the Zalari now begged for forgiveness. Some offered trade. Others offered peace treaties. All hoped Earth would spare them. The human council debated what to do, but Raynor had only one request. "Let us remember," he said. "Let every colony, every ship, every child of Earth remember what silence can cost and what fury can bring." On an icy mining world, the last free Zalari colony tried to rebuild. They planted crops in the frost. They lit fires at night to feel warmth, but they never played music, never raised their voices, never told their children the full truth, because some of them remembered what happened to the ones who laughed at humans. A young Zalari boy once asked, "Why do we never talk about the war?" His mother's eyes went cold. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because we're still alive." Back on Earth, a new monument was built, not of victory, but of warning. It stood in the center of the Galactic Council's rebuilt headquarters, a place that once ignored the cries of Colony 14. The monument was simple: a burned child's toy, a cracked helmet, and a plaque that read, "We never wanted war, but when you gave us one, we gave you back the truth. Earth does not fall. Earth remembers. Earth returns." Lieutenant Asha Blake, leader of the Howlers, stood alone in a forest clearing. Her squad was disbanded. The war was over. But she still had nightmares. Not of death. Not of pain, but of calm. She remembered the calm face of the human soldier who had entered the enemy command ship and left only silence behind. No words, no rage, just a quiet fury. Asha understood something that others didn't. The real price of provoking Earth wasn't what the galaxy saw. It was what it never saw again. In a distant system, the Galactic Senate held a memorial session. Leaders of many species came forward to offer apologies. Some cried, some knelt. All were afraid to say the wrong word. The human representative, a calm woman named Dr. Elena Rhodes, stepped forward. She wore no armor, no medals, just a simple suit and a face of stone. Her words echoed. "We came in peace. We warned them. We waited. And when they burned our children, we stopped waiting. Now we ask for nothing but memory. Remember what happened when you mistook silence for weakness." Then she left the room. No one followed her. Years passed. The stories became myths. Children of alien races whispered tales of the silent storm, human force that arrived without warning and left only smoke. Some believed the humans were gone. Others knew better. Because Earth did not raise banners or build empires. Earth simply watched and remembered. One day, an alien trader arrived on Earth. To request a business alliance, he brought gifts. He smiled. He bowed low. As he waited in the long corridor of Earth's diplomatic hall, he passed by a wall filled with names. Thousands of names. All lost at Colony FIMD 14. He stopped and stared. The wall was silent. But in his heart, he felt it. This is not a place of hate. This is a place of warning. High above Earth, a child aboard a space station looked out the window. He saw Earth's blue oceans, its green lands, and the thousands of satellites orbiting in silence. He turned to his teacher and asked, "Why don't we fight anymore?" The teacher smiled sadly. "Because once, a long time ago, someone gave us a reason." The child blinked. "And what did we do?" The teacher looked into space, then said, "We got really, really nasty." Final words of the story. They thought humans were soft. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought war would make Earth cry. Instead, it taught Earth to burn the sky. And now the galaxy knows. Never provoke the ones who survive everything. Never test the ones who bury their dead in silence. Never ever give Earth a reason.